Wife's secret nights with 4 men left her pregnant. She lied. I exposed everything. I found the message at 2:11 a.m. Not because I was awake, because her phone wouldn't stop buzzing on the nightstand, vibrations sharp enough to rattle the wood. She slept beside me, her breaths slow, almost innocent, while the screen lit up the room with brief flashes of white. At first I didn't touch it, I just watched it glow, fade, glow again. A name I didn't recognize appeared each time. Then another, and another. 4 different names, rotating like they were taking turns to pull me deeper into something I wasn't supposed to see. Last night was insane. Round 2? You awake? I can come over. Answer me. I need you again. My pulse didn't spike. My breathing didn't change. Everything inside me went perfectly still, as if I'd stepped outside my own body and left whatever version of me believed in her lying in the bed. A small sound left her, half sigh, half whisper, and she turned onto her side. Her hand brushed my chest, warm, familiar, trusted. I stared at her hand like it belonged to a stranger. I didn't wake her. I didn't shake her. I didn't ask a single question. Instead, I slipped out of bed, walked to the kitchen, and let the cold tile floor pull the heat out of my body. My heart wasn't breaking. It was sharpening. Because deep inside me, beneath years of trust and softness, a quiet, ruthless instinct stirred. Find the truth and end the lie. That was the night everything shifted. Not with screams, not with violence, but with silence. A silence so heavy it felt like it could crush the walls of the house. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She made tea, she kissed my cheek, she hummed while slicing fruit, like her world was soft and untouched. Mine, in contrast, felt split open, quietly, surgically. I watched her carefully. The way she avoided looking at her phone unless my back was turned. The way she typed quickly, then placed the device screen down every time I came near. She laughed when I asked how she slept, said she slept like a baby. I didn't respond, because I remembered the messages. And then, around noon, she dropped the real bomb. One she probably believed would tie me to her forever. She told me she was pregnant. Her voice trembled with rehearsed excitement. Her hands shook as if she were overwhelmed with joy. But her eyes didn't meet mine. Not fully, not directly. Just enough to seem sincere, not enough to be honest. I asked, quietly, "Are you sure?" She nodded too quickly, too eagerly. The lie slid between us, warm and sticky, as if she believed she could drown me in it. I congratulated her, held her, pretended to be exactly who she needed me to be, a loyal man, a blind man, the perfect fool. Inside, however, something far colder was forming, because pregnancy was an anchor, a shield, a way to trap someone in responsibility without ever confessing the truth, and she hoped it would work. But I wasn't the man she thought I was anymore, not after last night, not after seeing 4 men talk to her like they shared pieces of her I never knew existed, not after realizing this wasn't an accident, it was a pattern, a secret life carved beneath mine, waiting for me to trip into it. I didn't confront her, not yet. I learned long ago that confrontation gives the guilty something to defend. I wasn't interested in her excuses. I wanted evidence. Proof so sharp she couldn't touch it without bleeding. First, I copied her messages while she showered. Screenshots transferred to a hidden drive. Then I checked our home camera logs. She had disabled them on 4 specific nights. The same nights her messages grew bold, unfiltered, desperate. Next came the medical path. She thought announcing the pregnancy would end my ability to question. She forgot science exists. I booked a private appointment. DNA testing, not in the future, but now. There are methods, blood markers, early indicators. I answered questions clearly, calmly, like a man discussing the weather. Inside, however, I felt something burn. Not rage, not grief, clarity. I tracked her movements. I watched patterns form. 4 men, 4 different parts of the city. Different messages, different dynamics, but the same intention. Her intention. She wasn't confused. She wasn't pressured. She wasn't lost. She was choosing them. Deliberately, repeatedly, secretly. She came home late one night, smelling unfamiliar, breathless, hair messy. I opened the door for her. She froze. I smiled. She smiled back. Too bright, too staged. "Missed you," she whispered. I held her waist gently. My fingers brushed a bruise on her neck. Small, circular, faint. Not mine. She pulled away quickly, hiding it behind her hair. I pretended not to notice. Pretended not to see everything. Let her think she was safe. Because the most devastating revenge is built with patience, not chaos. And I was patient. The call came 3 days later. The doctor's voice was quiet, measured, professional. But the words were knives. Markers didn't match. Timelines didn't align. The probability was near 0. I wasn't the father. Not even close. I didn't thank him, didn't curse, didn't react. I simply hung up and sat in the car with the report in my hand, feeling the weight of every lie she had fed me. Not the betrayal of her body. That was physical, replaceable. What devastated me, what restructured something inside my chest, was the betrayal of her intentions. She had planned to pin this on me, planned to play the innocent wife, planned to trap me in a future she created with strangers. Not 1 mistake, but 4. I drove home slowly, the report folded neatly in the glove compartment. She greeted me with warmth again. Too warm, too eager. She made dinner, told me she felt closer to me lately. I watched her speak, every word a thread she wrapped around herself like a noose. Then, when the moment felt still enough, I placed the report on the table between us. She blinked, smiled, then read the first line. Her smile cracked like thin glass under pressure. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Her voice finally came out as a whisper. "Where did you get this?" I didn't answer. She reached for my hand. I pulled mine back. Her face collapsed, not from guilt, from fear. She knew the truth wasn't just exposed, it was irreversible. I didn't raise my voice, didn't accuse her, didn't list the names of the men she thought were secrets. I simply said 1 sentence. Choose the father. It was never going to be me. She broke instantly. Tears fell, apologies spilled, excuses tangled together in a desperate mess of words that meant nothing. I let her speak for nearly a minute before I stood up. And here is where the romantic tension belonged. Not sensual, not physical, but the ghost of what romance used to be, now twisted into something sharp. I walked around the table and lifted her chin gently, a touch she once leaned into. Now she flinched. "Do you know the worst part?" I whispered. She shook her head, trembling. "You made me love someone who never existed." Her breath hitched, her tears deepened. "And now," I continued, "I get to walk away from her forever." That was my revenge. Not screaming, not humiliation, abandonment. Complete emotional severance. I packed a bag slowly while she begged. Her voice cracked. Her knees hit the floor. She reached for me like a drowning woman reaching for the surface. I stepped back every time. No contact, no comfort. The final intimacy between us was her realization that I was already gone. Already dead to the version of life she wanted to trap me in. The silence between us became a wall. She tried to cross it. She couldn't. I left the house without looking back. Not because I was strong, but because something inside me had shifted into a colder shape,
one incapable of being moved by her voice anymore. Halfway down the street, she ran after me, barefoot, crying.
Calling my name like it still belonged to her. I turned once, just once, enough for her to see that the man she deceived was no longer standing there, only the man she created, a man who no longer trusted softness, no longer mistook affection for truth, a man she forged through betrayal. Her tears fell onto the pavement. I watched them land, silent, final. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. I slipped my ring off, placed it in her palm, and gently closed her fingers around it. I already did. Her hand shook. Mine didn't. I walked away, each step pulling me further from her world and deeper into a clarity I hadn't known in years. Not freedom, not victory, not triumph. Just truth. Cold, sharp truth. The final line formed in my mind as the door shut behind me. Some lies break your heart. Her lie rebuilt mine into something she could never touch again.
How could you do this?